Can't wait to see you in a little bit.
Kris Jenner is facing heartbreak after KoreyGamble, her longtime partner and confidant, rejected her marriage proposal. Yes, you heard that right. Kris, who has built an empire, crafted world-famous brands, and raised one of the most influential families on the planet, was turned down by the one man who seemed to be her rock. Now, we all know that Kris isn't exactly the type to let anyone stand in her way. But this is next-level drama. Let's dive into it, shall we? For months, Kris Jenner had been secretly planning the perfect proposal for Corey. Sources close to Kris say she had been dreaming of taking their relationship to the next level. The signs were there. Kris had been dropping major hints about marriage to anyone who would listen. She'd been asking her daughters about wedding planning, doing casual research on engagement rings, and was even spotted wearing a ring that looked suspiciously like a promise ring. But why now, after all? This time, Kris has been through a lot in her love life. From her highly publicized marriage to Robert Kardashian, to her split from Caitlyn Jenner, and everything in between. Kris has always been vocal about valuing love, while remaining equally committed to building her empire. So why was she suddenly ready to tie the knot again? Some say it's because she finally feels like she's found someone she can trust, someone who has supported her through the chaos, media frenzy, and roller coaster life of being a Kardashian Jenner. That man is KoreyGamble. Their bond seems to be the foundation of her readiness for marriage this time around. Unbreakable. He's been by her side since 2014, quietly supporting her, handling the spotlight, and keeping his distance from the sea. Drama. Until now. Here's the kicker. Corey turned her down. Yes, you heard that right. According to multiple sources close to the couple, when Kris went down on one knee, yes, she was going to propose, Corey's reaction was not what she expected. He looked at her and, according to insiders, said, "I'm not ready for marriage. Let's just keep things the way they are." Ouch. Heartbreaking, right? Kris Jenner, someone who has built the Kardashian-Jenner dynasty, who's been at the top of the game for decades, and who has weathered some of the toughest storms, got rejected. Corey, who's known to be laid back in private, isn't exactly the marriage-first type. This rejection was more than just about not being ready. It was a deep emotional blow to Kris. Sources reveal that Kris was devastated. This wasn't just about marriage. It was about the future, about Corey being her partner for life. But Corey was firm. It wasn't the first time they'd had these talks, but this time it hit differently. Kris was serious. She had hoped this time would be different, but clearly it wasn't. And this, dear viewers, is where things get even messier. Before we rush to conclusions, let's dive into Corey's mindset. Why wasn't Corey ready to marry Kris? Well, let's start with what we know about Corey. He's a private guy, never really looking. Unlike the rest of Kris's famous family, Corey tends to shy away from the spotlight. While Kris thrives on managing public relations, running the show, and staying in the media's constant gaze, Corey seems to prefer flying under the radar. As a talent manager, he's built his own career, yet he's managed to maintain a relatively low profile. Some insiders suggest that Corey simply isn't interested in marriage, particularly in his early 40s. While Kris has already had a few marriages and relationships in her past, Corey may not feel the same pressure to settle down that some others might experience. Living a comfortable, successful life with Kris by his side, Corey may not view marriage as the ultimate goal. For him, the dynamic they already have might feel like enough, and marriage might be something he feels is too much, too soon. Additionally, the age gap between Corey and Kris could contribute to their differing perspectives on marriage. Corey is in his 40s, while Kris is in her 60s. Despite the strong bond they share, the dynamics of their relationship could feel different given their respective life stages. Kris has already experienced much of life's ups and downs, and perhaps Corey is still figuring out where he stands in his own journey. This difference in experience could be a reason behind Corey's hesitation. Some insiders speculate that Corey's reluctance may also be tied to his personal goals. Maybe marriage, with all of its responsibilities and obligations, isn't something he's ready for, especially when he's already deeply involved in Kris's life and has found a sense of fulfillment in their current relationship. Why disrupt the balance when they've already established something that works for both of them? For Corey, it might not be about rejecting Kris, but about simply choosing a different path that doesn't include the formalities of marriage. When Kris faced Corey's rejection, it reportedly crushed her, though she kept her emotions tightly under wraps. Behind closed doors, she was heartbroken and confused. After nearly a decade together, Kris couldn't understand why someone who had been so supportive and by her side for so long would turn down her marriage proposal. Sources say she was blindsided, believing their relationship was solid and headed for the long term. Kris and Corey's bond seemed like a sure thing. They'd traveled together, attended family events, and weathered major ups and downs. Kris must have thought they were on the same page when it came to their future together. But Corey's rejection was a gut punch, one that threw her off balance and left her questioning everything. The real kicker here is that Kris doesn't like to show vulnerability. As a business mogul, a public figure, and the mastermind behind her family's empire, she's built a reputation for being tough, resilient, and in control. But when it comes to matters of the heart, Kris is just like anyone else. She's been through divorces, heartbreaks, and emotional turmoil before, but this time, the sting of rejection cuts deeper. Some reports suggest Kris has even started questioning their future. Was she wrong to assume they were headed in the same direction? Is this a sign that Corey isn't as invested as she is, or is he simply not ready for what she's offering? So, is this the end of Kris and Corey's relationship? We know Kris is a fighter, and she doesn't back down easily. But the reality is hard to ignore. Kris isn't getting any younger, and at her stage in life, the thought of starting over can feel like a tough pill to swallow. The emotional investment she has in Corey is significant, and the fear of losing that could make this rejection particularly painful. Could this rejection be the wake-up call Kris needs to reassess her love life and what she wants moving forward? However, don't count out the possibility of reconciliation just yet. Some sources speculate that this rejection could be a temporary hurdle. Maybe Corey is just not ready now, but that doesn't mean he'll never be. Relationships aren't always about perfect timing, they're about connection, and Kris and Corey do have that. If they decide to work through this, it's entirely possible they could come out stronger on the other side. But there's also the possibility that this could be a deal breaker. Could Kris Jenner, the woman who practically owns the world, really accept a man who isn't willing to commit to her fully? Or will she walk away, choosing to focus on her family, her business, and her own happiness? One thing's for sure, Kris is not someone who will let this break her spirit. Whether she stays with Corey or moves on, Kris will continue to make sure her empire keeps growing and evolving. And don't forget, this is just another chapter in Kris's extraordinary life. The Kardashian-Jenner family is known for their tight-knit bond, and when Kris faces heartbreak, it's not just her struggle, it affects the entire clan. If Kris is heartbroken, you can bet the whole family will rally around her for support. Kris has always leaned on her children and loved ones for strength during tough times, and this will be no different. Whatever happens, she'll have her family by her side, ready to offer comfort and encouragement as she navigates this emotional moment in her life. Her daughters, Khloe, Kourtney, Kim, Kendall, and Kylie, are sure to be deeply invested in the situation, and it's natural to wonder how they'll react to Kris's heartbreak. Will they rally behind her, offering unwavering support? Will they pressure Corey to step up and reconsider his decision? Or will they respect Kris's decision if she chooses to move on? The Kardashians are no strangers to being deeply involved in their mom's love life, and this situation raises a big question. What happens next? Is this the end of Kris and Corey's relationship, or is it just a temporary setback? Will Kris find new love, or will she work through the pain and continue building her empire alongside Corey? The family dynamics are complicated, and with such a close-knit bond, every decision feels like a family matter. So what do you think? Did Corey make the right call, or is he missing out on something extraordinary? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for all the latest updates on this drama and more. You won't want to miss what's coming next. We know Kris is a fighter, and she doesn't back down easily. But it's hard to ignore the reality of the situation. Kris isn't getting any younger, and at her stage in life, the thought of starting over might be a tough pill to swallow. Could this rejection be the end of her relationship with Corey, or is it a wake-up call for Kris to reassess her love life? While the pain of rejection stings, don't count out the possibility of reconciliation just yet. Some sources speculate that this rejection might be a temporary hurdle. Maybe Corey's just not ready yet. But that doesn't mean he'll never be. Relationships aren't always about perfect timing. They're about connection, and Kris and Corey do have that. If they decide to work through their differences, they very well could come out stronger. On the other side, however, there's also the possibility that this could be a deal breaker. Could Kris Jenner, the woman who practically owns the world, really accept a man who's not willing to commit to her fully? Or will she walk away, choosing to focus on her family, her business, and her own happiness? One thing's for sure, Kris is not someone who will let this break her spirit. Whether she stays with Corey or moves on, Kris will continue to ensure her empire keeps growing and evolving. She's built an empire for a reason, and nothing will stop her from keeping it going. And remember, this is just another chapter in Kris's extraordinary life. The Kardashian-Jenner family is known for their tight-knit bond, and when Kris faces heartbreak, it's not just her struggle, it affects the entire clan. If Kris is heartbroken, you can bet the whole family will rally around her for support. Her daughters in particular are incredibly close to her, and they'll no doubt be there to offer comfort and guidance during this emotional time. As for how they'll react, it's anyone's guess. Will they back Kris up, helping her heal from the rejection? Or will they be more vocal, pressuring Corey to reconsider? The Kardashians have always been incredibly protective of their mom, so it wouldn't be surprising if they show up in full force to support her. Whatever happens, it's clear that Kris won't be facing this alone. With her family behind her, she's sure to emerge stronger, no matter the outcome.